Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Outside Insider podcast here on Philly Sports Network with myself, Liam Jenkins. You know the score by now. All things Eagles related from the last 7 days, recap, chopped up, put into a bag and given to you absolutely free of charge with a free t-shirt. So if you're new around here and you're not yet subscribed and you're wondering what is this noise deafening me, you can subscribe on the following platforms. We are on iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and of course the YouTube channel. So if you're on YouTube, leave a like and hit subscribe. I know there are so many of you that listen to this show now, so if you have any of the other platforms, leave a little review on there, hit subscribe, that'd be cool. And we're going to start today's show with something a little bit different. Now obviously I know the Eagles news hasn't exactly been flooding through the gates. That doesn't mean we haven't got content for you though. There is a huge thank you next section coming a little bit later, but we had a first on this show last week. And that first, believe it or not, was an email from a listener. And it came on my birthday. It was like the worlds have aligned to create this gorgeous new universe of success. I was like, oh my god, it's my birthday. We've got reader comments. I'm popping a bottle of champagne. I'm enjoying this moment. And then I clicked the email, and I hope Robert won't mind me reading this out. It's for good reason. So Robert, one of our listeners, emailed me and said, "Hey Liam, I'm an avid listener and subscriber on Spotify and I love your content. At this point, I'm getting a bit emotional. I'm a bit happy. I'm going to drop a big soppy thank you speech. I'm not sure if you're joking around about your vertical leap, but they totally measured your leap incorrectly. Now, if you've listened to this show for any more than about, I don't know, an episode, you'll know that nearly every single week I make a passing comment that my vertical recorded at the NFL UK game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Jacksonville Jaguars came in at a whopping 38.9. 38.9 inches. Now that is the average height of a college athlete. Now I don't know whether that's basketball, I don't know whether that's lacrosse, but we'll say it's basketball because it makes me sound taller. So Robert wasn't too happy with this. I guess he's gone back, seen the video and gone, hang on a minute, Liam, this guy's just stuck a stick in the air and you're wrong. So he said they needed to adjust your reach before you jump. I'm sending you an email because I didn't want to call you out in public. And then he sent an attached YouTube link showing me how they should record a vertical leap. He also said, congrats on quitting your job and starting this full time. So thank you very much for the email, Rob. I hope you don't take offence to me airing this. I just thought it was funny to kind of bring up because my whole profile is now a bit, I mean, what am I going to do when I get to Philadelphia now? And a woman comes up to me and goes, oh, what's that? A tall, swanky Brit. And I go, do you know what? I would have a 38.9 inch vertical, but it's actually 34 because I did it wrong. It's not quite as impressive, that. So Rob is just, on my birthday of all days, has gone, you're not as tall as you think you are. And I'm a little bit heartbroken about that. I truly am. It reminds me of a time, actually, with my ex-girlfriend. We went into a pharmacy and they've got one of those machines there where you can tell how tall you are, right? So I'd always told her that I'm 6'3" because look at me, I'm a Goliath, I'm a god amongst men. And okay, I'm going to prove a point. I'm going to show her how tall I am because I think I'm taller. So I get on this machine and it comes out 6'2". And I'd never heard the end of that for the remainder of said relationship. I was a little bit broken. So now, you've just taken that knife, Robert, just twisted it a bit, just kind of dug it in a little bit deeper. So, thanks for that. But genuinely, thank you for reaching out. If you are a subscriber and you want to send an email, phillysportsnetwork@gmail.com. Or you can obviously tweet me at LiamJenkins21. I'm far more active on Twitter than anywhere else because that's kind of where I push all of my content. But it did mean a lot. Like, I've never really had an email from a subscriber before or a listener. So it does mean a lot that you enjoy the show, Rob. Thank you for taking the time to reach out and having some banter with me as well. So I'm sorry to inform all of you that I am not an absolute behemoth. Instead, I am a mere mortal. I am simply a man that can reach average heights, and it's a humiliating thing, you know. It's a big slice of humble pie, that one. And another big slice of humble pie. We're going to actually get into Eagles content now because that is what you're all here for. Well, most of you. Some of you just, you know, shout LJ a lot and tell me how tall I'm not. The Eagles have kind of been in a weird spot these last couple of weeks because the draft visits have been ramping up ever since the Senior Bowl. Everyone is anticipating what the Birds will do at 25, and there is an increasing amount of speculation that they could move up or move down depending on I guess how the draft falls. So whether that ends up being a player such as Ed Oliver falling a little bit later than expected, or they feel there's too much talent, they can really kind of get by sitting back a few steps and moving back. But the one thing they have not done is meet with a linebacker. At least the first round one, as of right now. Now, of course, this is all reported. I mean, they could have met with 30 of them, if we're brutally honest. We just don't know. But as things look right now, you would assume that a team that has spent the entirety of free agency filling up draft needs and has gone out and signed Ronald Darby. Sorry, I've got to apologise in advance. I've worked 6 days in a row. So I've quit my job. I had to give 2 weeks notice. This is my last week before I can go full time, and they've really milked that cow dry. I've had 6 consecutive days. My head's all over. I'm really tired, so my speech is probably going to sound like I'm a little bit drunk, so I promise you I'm not. But the Eagles have brought back Ronald Darby, filled a massive hole at corner. They bring in Andrew Sende at corner, safety. That patches a hole because obviously the team needed a starting safety. They then go out and bring in Malik Jackson when they lost Timmy Jernigan. They go out and bring in Deshaun Jackson when they needed a wide receiver too, a speedy option. The only position, even running back, we have now got Jordan Howard heading up that backfield. The only spot they've really, you can say, not added to that is a position of need. Offensive line ignored because they have obviously restructured and re-signed players, is linebacker. So why wouldn't they go out and look at linebackers? They sit at 25. Devin Bush Jr., who's one of my favourite linebackers in this class, not named Blake Cashman, is going to be around that sort of range between like 19 and 25. I can see Baltimore maybe snagging him, but outside of that, he should really fall to the Eagles at 25. Why would they not do their homework? Why would they not meet with these guys? It's a really, really interesting thing to look at. What's truly astounding is that all of their draft meetings so far, so we're no longer talking about the first round, we're talking everywhere. The only linebackers they've met with have been 3-4 defensive ends that can be seen as outside linebackers. 1 inside linebacker, Troy Reader out of Delaware. That's going to be a sleeper pick. Outside of that, there are a couple of guys that I suppose you could pin to a more outside linebacker role, but even that, like Jerry Green out of Mississippi State, kind of confuses me a bit. You sell it, Ulysses Gilbert, I should say, is another one that is the only real linebacker out of Akron that I would say could play inside as well. Because to me, you look at the outside, Nigel Bradham's one side, and on the other, obviously you've got Camu Grugier-Hill, who is a lightning in a bottle type player. And I mean, film rooms have shown that on my channel, on the Philly Sports Network website. I don't know how the fans feel about him, but the team are very high on him. Obviously, he came off a season prior to last where he led the Eagles in special teams tackles. Poised for a big breakout, he's certainly impressed. Nate Jerry, another player the team are high on. Malcolm Jenkins comes down in that safety spot. And the big thing to note is that the Eagles end up playing with 3 linebackers about 25% of the time. They like coming down with Jenkins in the box, with a safety in the box, with an extra DB, which means that you're going to have 2 linebackers. And as of right now, Bradham and LJ Fort, who can compete for a starting role. Obviously, he's called LJ, so he's going to get a starting role because, you know, LJ and LJ. What a podcast that would be. We've got to make that happen. So I don't know. Is it just that the Eagles are that confident in a transition to a more defensive back-based scheme that they don't value the linebacker that how other teams do? Troy Reader, as we said, the only linebacker that is a designated inside backer that they've met with, out of everybody. There's a lot of attention on the trenches on both sides of the ball, a few wide receivers. No one really outside of that. A couple of tight ends. Dax Raymond is the name that stands out to me out of Utah State. A lot of running backs, but no linebackers. A lot of receivers, but safeties, yeah. No linebackers. It is bizarre. Because on one hand, I'm thinking, if I'm Howie Roseman, and I know my team is that good, and I know that the only real hole we haven't touched on is linebacker, why wouldn't we take the best one available? Now, I know there is a stark drop-off, and I highly doubt the Eagles are going to just trade up and pick up Devin White. But that doesn't mean Devin Bush isn't a great player. And you'd assume that they'd at least meet with him. At the very least, someone that is within their grasp at 25. That will be my first objective as a general manager. If you're at 25, what players are going to fall to you? Forget the position, who's on the board when you're on the clock. Devin Bush should be. Or at least very close by. So how his name has not even come up once, unless it is one massive smokescreen, is a little bit confusing. The only way I can rationalise this is that if you imagine Howie Roseman is a friend of a group of guys on a night out, okay? And there's a group of girls, and they're all giving Howie the eye. Why wouldn't they? Look at him. I mean, the guy's an absolute stallion, okay? Let's just be real here for a second. And everyone's like, go on, Howie, go talk to her. Go sneak over there. Shoot the shot, sunshine. And he's like, no, I'm good. And they're like, Howie, this girl's like a 9 out of 10. You should be all over this. Come on, Howie, go slay, queen. And he's like, no, I'm good. I'm just here to enjoy my night. And everyone questions why the stallion, the demon steed, won't go out and shoot his shot. What they don't realise is that on the low, Howie's been talking to a girl. And this girl just so happens to be wifey material. So instead of wasting money on buying her drinks and trying to go through the tedious process and risking losing what he's got and jumping ahead and putting her on that pedestal above the girl he's already talking to, he'd rather just develop what he has. He'd rather put his faith in the connection they've got and be a bit more wholesome. That is one scenario. The other scenario is that he's going to say, nah, I'm good. And as soon as everyone's back's turned, he's run off home with her in a cab and you don't see him until the next morning. That is the other side. There are two sides of what the Eagles could be doing. I don't think, unfortunately, for our exciting podcast narratives, it's going to be the second one, though. It's too much of a smokescreen to play. Because it's not like you'd be shocked if the Eagles went out and drafted a linebacker. I wouldn't sit there I will announce something very shortly, but I won't sit there, where you certainly cannot see my reaction, and be absolutely shook. I won't sit there throwing a cup of tea in the air thinking, oh my god, the Eagles have drafted a linebacker, who saw this coming, it's absolutely ridiculous. I just think, wow, they filled a need. They filled a need. That's as simple as that. So there's no real desperational need to go out and fool the Baltimore Ravens or fool a team that's behind them in the draft order. No one is going to be stunned. You will not see Rich Eisen sat there on draft day going, wow, shock of the NFL draft, the Eagles pick up Devin Bush at 25. No one would be shocked. It will just be seen as a very solid and good pick. So I don't think it's a smokescreen. The truth of the matter is, the Eagles just don't value linebackers. The Eagles have taken 92 linebackers in their draft history, and obviously a lot's changed in that span, so we won't go too deep with it. But I'll give you the names in the round of some of the most former picks that you will have heard of. Nate Jerry was kind of a hybrid player, 5th round pick. 2 linebackers ago, so to speak, so the 2016 NFL draft, a pair of 7th round picks were spent on Alex McAllister and Oregon's Joe Walker. 2015, of course, we had Jordan Hicks out of Texas. Great player for the Eagles, has now gone on to sign a big-time deal with the Arizona Cardinals. That's fine. 3rd round, remember that. Because before that, they took a linebacker in 2012. 2nd round, Michael Kendricks. In 2011, Casey Matthews, big names to remember in the 4th. Brian Roll and Greg Lloyd in the 6th and 7th. Then the year before that, Keenan Clayton in the 4th. Ricky Sapp in the 5th. Jamar Chaney in the 7th. 2009... Moise Focal in the 7th. Joe Mays, Andy Studebaker in a pair of 6th rounds. Brian Smith in the 3rd. Stuart Bradley in the 3rd, 2007. Chris Gotchong? I hope I'm saying that right. I think this is before I started watching the team. Round 3. Amar Gaither, round 5. David Bergeron. I can't even spell it. This is really... I actually think I'm low-key dyslexic, you know. David Bergeron, round 7. Trent Cole, round 5. This is back to 2005. Matt McCoy, round 2. So we're now back 15 years. Hang on, they drafted LJ. There is another LJ. We're not alone, ladies and gentlemen. LJ Smith. How can I... Oh my god. How could I forget the Eagles have already had an LJ on their team? That totally slipped my mind. Oh wow. I totally forgot. I am absolutely shook. I'm not even the original LJ. Heartbroken. So not only am I not tall, I'm now not the original LJ. Anyway, back into 15 years of draft history, and the Eagles have taken 2 linebackers in the second round, none in the first. None. How terrifying is that? Like, that's crazy, right? In fact, I mean, the one I can find straight away is Bob Pellegrini in 1956. That was a first round pick. I'm just trying to scroll through here really quickly. This is totally off script now. Like, I did have the first 10 years written down. I'm now just going back. They had Tim Risovich in 1968 in the first round. Steve Zabel in the first in 1970. Nothing modern. There's just Jerry Robinson, 1979. Let's go back to something a bit more modern. 90s, there is just nothing. A few more second round picks. Quinton Caver, no. There's just nothing. Absolutely nothing. The franchise does not value linebacker in the way that other teams do. And I don't know if we can't just say this is on Jim Schwartz and his new defensive scheme. We can't say it's on the new nickel and dime formations. We can't see anything like that. This has been going on for decades. Absolute decades. Whether it's an organisational standpoint, I know that obviously owners change and GMs change and coaches change, but there just seems to be this sense of, I guess, value can be found in development and not in outright talent when drafting early. And I guess that does make sense. The Eagles obviously very high on their linebackers coach. Let's not forget about that. I mean, Ken Flajole, I'm hoping my borderline, I actually genuinely think I'm dyslexic. Personality is not saying that wrong, but this guy's been in the league for absolutely years. Like, he started out coaching linebackers in 2000 with the Seahawks. Since then, has ended up as defensive coordinators. He's gone back to coaching linebackers once again. That guy is huge to the Eagles. He's been with the team since 2016. Coached inside linebackers at Cleveland before that. They love what they have in Clem Flajole. And when you look at the players since 2016, the development of those players that have come through that haven't been hampered by injury, Camus Grugier-Hill is the perfect example of that. The perfect embodiment of that. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but when the Eagles originally snagged him, when they originally just poached him from the New England Patriots practice squad, I put an article out and I broke down the film. This is the OG Eagles film room. If you somehow remember this article, shout out to you, because this was before Eagles film room on YouTube took off. This was an article format of using GIFs, right? And I said that this guy has the potential to develop into a starter. And I had a comment saying, why would I waste my time writing an article on this bum? That was the exact terminology used. He'll be cut by the time the season starts. Camus Grugier-Hill has now gone on to be a major role player for this team. A major role player. And that, I think you can put down largely to Ken Flajole. If you look at Nigel Bradham's continued emergence when he reunites with Jim Schwartz, the continued development of Jordan Hicks, even Nate Jerry's full-time transition to a linebacker, it's all on his shoulders. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's the team thinking they can get a linebacker later on. And to be honest, if they get Blake Cashman, I will have a victory parade. Like, I will be so flustered and so worked up. You have no idea. Blake Cashman is my ultimate linebacker crush in this year's draft. Then as a sleeper value, that would be a dream pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. The issue is I'm not sure they're going to be in the right spot to pick him. But genuinely, that's all it is. I don't think the Eagles are going to go and run away with a first round linebacker. And it breaks my heart because I love Devin Bush. I'm a big Devin Bush guy. I've taken him twice now in each of my mock drafts. I do think Devin Bush is the guy the Eagles should take in round 1 if he's there at 25, if the Eagles haven't traded up. I would take that over a safety because I feel like the need for an emerging player is key. And everyone can look at the Eagles linebackers to a point, even backing up that argument of saying that, oh, well, because they play these big nickel or dime packages, that they don't deploy 3 linebackers very often, that's totally fine. But if you're leaning on Paul Warrilow to be your starter, a guy that's on a 1-year deal, coming off an ACL, and you don't think those other guys are ready, then now's the time. Because the Eagles are in a position of luxury, because the role players they have, LJ Fort, 3-year deal. Big time move for the Philadelphia Eagles without a shadow of a doubt. That's going to be a key special teamer. BJ Bellows going to be there till 2021. It's not the greatest, depth to have, but it's still there, especially on special teams if he makes the final roster. Nigel Bradham 2023, but Cameron Grugier-Hill's 2020, Nate Jerry 2021. So if it's me and I'm saying a 1-year deal for Paul Warrilow, Cameron Grugier-Hill's going to want another deal after next year, and Nate Jerry is entering his contract year after that, I want some long-term sustenance, and I want it now. And I think drafting a first-round guy is the way to do that. If the Eagles don't, then that's fine, and I don't think they do. I think they're genuinely going to slip back, maybe pick up a Blake Cashman, maybe a linebacker slightly lower down the draft order, or maybe none at all. Maybe they just really like who they've got. But I don't think, unfortunately, as much as it breaks my heart to say it, they're going to go out and take a linebacker in the first round. Their draft meetings shows it. That's certainly not a smokescreen. Their draft history shows it. That's certainly not a smokescreen. And do you know the biggest wild card of all? If you go back and look at the Joe Douglas draft history when he was in Baltimore, which it spans quite a while, if we're brutally honest here, they took 6 linebackers. And that provided incremental value. CJ Mosley, Arthur Brown, Courtney Upshaw, Sergio Kindle, Tavares Gooden, 5 of them. Jason Phillips, a 5th round pick. The average round drafted is the highest position in the roster in that span. An average of a mid-second round pick, 2.6, is very high for any position, but it's clear that the scouting team, led by Joe Douglas, were far more comfortable drafting linebackers early than developing late. Is that enough to sway this? Or are we going to see a team again draft with one of their second round picks? If they do, that fits the Joe Douglas mold. If they're comfortable getting, a guy in the second or third round, then that speaks volumes as well. That's right in the heart. The Eagles have 2 second round picks in the middle of that round. Maybe that's where they're looking. That would fit the perfect mold of the Eagles not viewing linebackers as talent they can get in the first round reliably. The Ravens, when Douglas was with them, drafting it prominently and doing very well out of it. And the 2 of those coming together, given their depth situation and what will be quite an immediate need for long-term sustenance after next season. But let me know your thoughts. Will the Eagles take Devin Bush in the first round? I need to know your opinions. Comment down below if you're on YouTube. Leave a review. Tweet me at LiamJenkins21. Email me like Robert and slag off my vertical phillysportsnetwork@gmail.com. But now we move on to my favourite part of the show. It's your probable favourite part of the show. It's our part of the show. It rhymes with thank you, X. God, that was the worst thing ever. Thank you, next. We take your questions. You send them to me on Twitter at LiamJenkins21. I answer them in what I hope to be under 15 seconds, though that never really works. We're going to start now, and we're going to go to our reliable questioner, if that's a term, Will Roberts. Thank you, next. Who are your top 5 quarterbacks in the league, as well as running backs and receivers? Top 5 QBs is so tricky. I never like doing these rankings. I think as of right now, in no particular order, we're going to have to go with Tom Brady, who's still there doing Tom Brady things. Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck. Oh, do I put Patrick Mahomes there? Yes. Then do I go with Drew Brees? Oh, I'm going to put Carson Wentz, Russell Wilson. There we go. For running backs and wide receivers, I'm not going to do, if I'm brutally honest, purely because I don't feel as confident in scouting them all. I think that wide receiver is so lucrative, and it is honestly down to some people torn on ABs, some people like DeAndre Hopkins. Running back again is specific. Do you remember DeMarco Murray in 2014 behind that Dallas offensive line, then what happened in Philly? It is honestly down to personal preference. I think the only one you can truly get a real read on, and it be almost, well, I don't know, it is tricky. I think anytime you grade players, it is a personal bias. But it's easier for me to look at quarterbacks and say those guys are top 5 than they're not. Whereas wide receivers, you can sneak a case and say, well, this guy had a down year, but he's better or whatever. Do you okay now? Let's go for it. I'm going to go with, again, no particular order, DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, Julio, AB, and Oh, I don't know. Keenan Allen. I really like Keenan Allen. We're going to go. I didn't even mention Odell. See, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. It's so tricky. It's the same with running backs as well. Although Christian McCaffrey would be up there because that was almost my draft crush. Anyway, thank you. Next, we're moving on to Ben Vega. A thank you. Next question. He knows the score. We all see the Eagles wanting to trade up. Do you think they trade up for either Devin at linebacker? Oh, God. I'm sorry, Ben. Ben, I'm so sorry. Moving on. Oh, God. Thank you. Next, Brendan Celestine. Over under on Carson Wentz passing yards 4,000. How much would I pay Carson Wentz on his next extension? I'm going to go over for this season purely because of the weaponry he's got around him, the offseason he's going to have with his offensive coordinator, and just a full offseason of training and not sitting on the sidelines before being thrown into a team that was predominantly built for Nick Foles. So I'm going over 4,000 with ease. How much would I pay him? Let's just say the Andrew Luck contract for now. We'll go with that. I think that's a very good model to base it on. It's probably going to be a bit higher than that, but it's Howie Roseman. I think that is the best model to look at, given the timing in which Luck signed that deal, the concerns that were surrounding him when he signed that deal, and then the seasons he had after it. I think that's a very strong place to look. So I would say Andrew Luck level money is where we're going to go. But thank you. Next, Teddy Biriani says, oh my God, this is a good one. How do you rank, based in Jim Schwartz's scheme, Chauncey, Adderley, Savage, and Thornhill? Okay, and also gets the second part in a minute. I would say it's Chauncey first. It's going to be, Savage second. Adderley third, but he's so versatile. I think to me, he is the guy at 25. Like, he will just fit any scheme. And Thornhill fourth, but he tackles like a freight train. Also, where does Lewis Capaldi's singing voice come from? He looks and talks like a 70-year-old Scottish woman, but sings like a deep-voiced angel. See, I have the opposite. I mean, I'm 24, I look like a 15-year-old, and I sound like a 12-year-old. So, I don't know. I can vouch for Lewis on that one. He looks and sounds a lot older, but it's different, isn't it? If you're not listening to Lewis Capaldi, get your heartbreak on. Absolute banger, and the guy's an absolute legend as well. Thank you. Next, Sean Lamont picked 3 current Eagles and cast them into Disney live-action remakes. This is bad because I got outed for my lack of Disney knowledge recently, so this isn't going well. I can't even set Jordan Hicks in Simba anymore. Simba isn't even a film. I can't put Jordan Hicks in The Lion King because he's not there. So let's go with I'm going to put Rasul Douglas, and he's going to be Woody in Toy Story because he gets very jealous of, oh God, this is getting bad, isn't it? He doesn't like Buzz, and Buzz comes in, Buzz is Ronald Darby, and ruins everything, and Woody was the favourite, and he should be the favourite, and everyone loves Woody, and they just love Buzz instead, and everyone flocks to Buzz, and Rasul's left out, and no, Rasul Douglas is Wheezy in Toy Story. It's a little penguin left on a shelf, and he's a singing penguin, a happy penguin. He always sings. It should be Rasul, and it's not, and instead Wheezy's there in Toy Story 2, coughing up dust, because he sat on the sideline for too long. I am not having it anymore. We need justice for Wheezy. We need justice for Rasul. It's too much. That got a bit aggressive there. I'm also going to cast, let's go with Chris Long is going to be Cinderella because, my God, have you seen him? I'm not being funny. As a man crush, it's pushing the limits, isn't it, guys? Let's be honest. If we're all straight, if you're not straight, you probably understand even more. But Chris Long is a very I mean, that is the biggest dad going, right? That's insane. Like, Chris Long is Cinderella. The 7 dwarves would oh my God, would probably be, I'm not going to name all of them individually, but let's just go with the trenches on both sides. We can have Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, the whole lot. They can all be the 7 dwarves. And the third film I'm going to remake with a cast of Philadelphia Eagles players would probably have to be, again, I'm really limited on Disney knowledge here. I was going to say Pokemon, and that is just not a film, or Disney for that matter. So, we'll have A Bug's Life where Carson Wentz can play Flick and save the world from all the bad, angry grasshoppers, aka the Dallas Cowboys. I think that works, right? That makes sense. That concludes another edition of Thank You Next. Thank you so much for submitting your questions. Again, if you would like to submit them in the future, at Liam Jenkins 21, which I think in French is un, deux, un. Croissant un? Croissant. See, again, the only time I don't talk French, I studied it at school, I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but there was a French exchange student at my college, and she was quite cute, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go over. Little emo Liam, 17 years old, feeling himself, goes up, says, bonjour. I'm like, okay, this sounds good. She goes, salut, little cute smile, little wave, and I'm like, right, we're in here, Liam, just don't mess it up. You can do this. I look at her dead in the eye, and I say, je m'appelle la Jardin. And I was like, that sounded so sensual and so French. And then she burst out laughing. Her friends did the same. They walked away. Turns out I told her I am called the Garden. So don't do that if you're going to talk French. Pointless information there. That's why we come to this podcast, right? Unfortunately, I kind of think we're towards the end of the show. There's a couple more things we've got to talk about. One of them, obviously, is going to be the AAF signings and a little bit more information on the guys and where they can fit in this current roster space. And the other is the announcement that we're going to get to now. And it's quite a fun one as well. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, you love the NFL draft, I love the NFL draft, so why don't we, aka, enjoy the draft vis-a-vis together? And that is what this announcement is. So essentially, I will be hosting a live stream during every single day of the NFL draft where you can watch it with me, we can react to the picks together, break them down. I mean, this is the thing, I still gonna need to try and write articles after every pick, so it'll kind of be an initial reaction, then a break. Maybe I'll try and get one of the co-hosts to come in or something, because I'm multitasking here. The draft is always a chaotic time for me, but it means we can enjoy it together, have some fun, maybe have some beers, have some giveaways, play some Madden, whatever it may be. We're gonna have a laugh, so if you're down for that, if it's something you genuinely want to be interested in, let me know. We'll be hosting it, hopefully, every single day, because I'm now full-time, as of the 14th, which is 2 days. I've got one more shift at work after Saturday, and then I'm done. I'm out, I'm done, capiche, that's it. I'm full-time, Philly Sports Network, which, again, I'm not gonna get too soppy, but that blows my mind, and it means I can do stuff like that now. So there will be more podcasts, there will be more video content, and so much of that kind of aspect of it, I guess, where we just want to push every boundary. Like the Madden series will come back, and so much more. But we love you guys. I mean, without you there is no... Oh god, it's getting soppy, isn't it? I promised myself I wouldn't do this, but this is your podcast. We want to have as much fun with it as you guys have listening to it. So if you guys want a draft show, we'll have a draft show, we'll make it live, we can have call-ins, we can have some fun. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. But on to our final quick topic of discussion. The Philadelphia Eagles hired 3 prospects, I would say, from the Alliance of American Football. It's really annoying because I had a video prepped on 5 players the Eagles should sign. 2 of them ended up being poached. So Greg Ward Jr. returns, and I think this guy could be the man that makes the team. He's had 2 off seasons with the Eagles. He couldn't quite cut onto the roster on both occasions, but ended up posting pretty modest numbers in the Alliance. In fact, he put up 214 yards on 22 receptions, but he also emphasised what was a very strong catch radius, something that he did in preseason as well, with one hell of a snag off, I believe, a Nick Foles pass. It may have been against the Steelers, I could be wrong. Someone fact-check me on that one, but I remember him leaping like a salmon to haul that pass in. But interestingly, though, he also brought back 9 punts for 135 yards, which led the AAF with an average of 15 per return. So, given that Darren Sproles will be going, Deshaun Jackson won't be around forever, if the Eagles can really nurture something out of Greg Ward Jr., there could be some hidden value as a returner there. They're also bringing quarterback Luis Perez, and this one annoys me because it's Luis, right? Luis Suarez. Luis Suarez. Not Luis. He's not Luis. Okay, Luis is a different name. Or Luis. Okay? Luis or Louis. I don't get this. Luis? Why does it go? Luis? Why is it going up? I don't... I've been fired up about that for too long, and this was the only platform where you guys know LJ comes out and just lets loose. Luis shouldn't be... I can't stop saying it. Well, you know, if it makes it to preseason, I don't know how many of you have been around this podcast for longer than a year, but during August of last year for the preseason games, I did a live stream similar to what we're going to do with the draft called Red Zone Live, where I sat there and gave live commentary and breakdowns and analysis of the preseason games, which was basically this podcast on steroids. And because it's midnight and I'm bad enough now, let alone when I'm sleep deprived. So if we take that with the idea of a quarterback called Luis Perez, I'm just not sure how this is going to end. I'm a little bit terrified. I don't actually understand. I mean, can you guys stomach Luis for 4 hours? Anyway, criticism on Luis Perez name aside, 6'3", 222 pounds, he's 24 years old. The most honestly notable thing, outside of the fact that he was just mediocre with the Birmingham Iron, completing 52% of his passes, would be that he was an undrafted free agent out of a D2 school, signed with the LA Rams for an off-season, so has learned under McVay, learned under Jared Goff, and given that Sean McVay is somewhat known as a quarterback whisperer, it wouldn't surprise me if there's not a common tangent between McVay and Peterson of what they've seen in him. Like, what do they see in Luis Perez? I've got to stop. I can't say his name without saying it. But what have they seen in Luis Perez without... What are we not seeing? So I see a quarterback that's quite tall, quite mobile, has accuracy issues, struggles to fit a ball in tight windows. Both of those coaches have now given him a chance, so there is clearly some developmental talent there, and to me, this is likely a Joe Callahan level signing. He's got plenty of upside, an interesting backstory. There's a reason why the Eagles have gone for him, and not said Johnny Manziel, or not another quarterback in this league, or not a Garrett Gilbert, let's say. So, it's an intriguing signing. I'm very interested to see how he gets on, especially how those mechanics change under the Eagles coaching staff of Press Taylor, just like Nate Sudfeld has developed in his last 2 years. So there's definitely some potential there. Does this stop the Eagles from drafting a quarterback? I absolutely do not think so. And then finally, moving away from one last time, Luis Perez, the Eagles sign the AAF's top receiver. Charles Johnson, 30 years old, formerly drafted in the 7th round by the Green Bay Packers, had a relatively stable NFL resume, had 475 yards in 2014. Injuries kept him out, there were some character concerns, the bug started to bite a bit more, ended up going to the Browns and the Jets and a couple other teams, and he just couldn't stick onto a roster. And in Minnesota in 2016, when you've got Stephon Diggs one side, you've got Adam Thielen doing bits on the other, there's only so far you can get. But at 6'2", 216 pounds, absolutely decimated the AAF. Absolutely decimated it. He had 45 receptions, 687 yards and 5 tutties. If he's been that consistently reliable, I mean, the only unreliable part has been the AAF side of it. The NFL side with the injuries. At 30 years old, it's a veteran. We've seen Marcus Wheaton, we've seen Ruben Randall come in and make impacts before. Could this be a guy to do the same? I think so. It's certainly worth a shot. Are they going to find incremental value? Probably not. It's going to be a guy that's going to compete with players such as Mac Hollins or Shelton Gibson or any other draftee they bring on. This isn't going to be a player that's going to come in and be the preseason. I mean, he might be the preseason darling, but it certainly fills out the depth chart, adds some competition, and there is explosiveness to be had. He's proven that that's not gone away. He's not lost a step at the age of 30. So there's a lot to play for with Charles Johnson. I'm actually very positively intrigued to see how these three players fare in the city of brotherly love over the course of training camp. And I will be out there, fingers crossed, for training camp, for pre-season, with all of you, digesting it, breaking it down, meeting you all, giving you lots of hugs and soppy speeches. Count on it, put it in the books. LJ's coming to Philly. I hope you have enjoyed this episode, guys. Thank you so much. This is the last Outside Insider episode before I am a full-time Eagles reporter. So enjoy it, soak it up, have a drink, enjoy Luis Perez, and I will see you next time at Liam Jenkins 21 on Twitter. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you soon.